Senator Nash.
Thank you, Mr President. I seek leave to make a statement of no longer than 10 minutes.
Okay, leave. There been no objection. Leave is granted. Senator Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President, and can I thank the Senate for their indulgence in giving me this period of time to speak. We have had a change of arrangements in the Senate today, and I do appreciate the Senate's indulgence. I rise to pay tribute to Harriet Nixon, who was tragically killed just after Christmas in a terrible freak accident, and she was only 21 years of age. And right now she'd be telling me to get it together, so I promise I will. Harriet was a family friend and also worked for me here in the building as an intern for the last 2 years, and she was a beautiful, beautiful young lady and such a wonderful, wonderful young Australian. It was a tragic accident, and to have that happen to somebody so young who had their whole life in front of them was just so absolutely tragic. It was an absolute testament to Harriet, though, the outpouring of love and support that she received from the moment of the accident through the funeral and since. And when she was in the hospital, the Deputy Prime Minister, Barnaby Joyce, came to the hospital so he could be by her bedside. The Prime Minister rang her parents, Ralph and Fee. Julie Bishop, the Foreign Minister, rang her parents. And over 1,200 people attended her funeral. And I think that was just extraordinary. The funeral was a beautiful celebration of her tragically short life. And there was a wonderful story that was told about Harriet, who had an amazing inner confidence, just simply amazing. And I think it was 5 years of age, learnt how to sing the national anthem. Her mother had been doing the flowers, I think, for the Olympics, and I'll correct that if it's wrong. And she learnt the national anthem, both verses, I might say, and went on to sing this at her school, and then rang up Macca on a Sunday morning on the ABC and proceeded to sing the national anthem, proclaimed to him very confidently that she knew the national anthem, both verses, and went on to sing it on the radio. And I think it was an extraordinary thing, and so much so, and I just want to read this or parts of it, that Macca on the 15th of January, after Harriet had passed away, spoke about it on his show. And he said, and I quote, "I always like to talk to youngsters that call the program from time to time. I don't know what it is about the young voice in young Australians. About 14 years ago, I had a call from a little girl who had just learnt Advanced Australia Fair, and she wanted to sing it for Australia. Her name was Harriet Nixon. Some little time after that, we were doing some drought relief concerts, one in Melbourne at Dallas Brookshire and one in Sydney at Castle Hill. I asked Harriet to come along and open the show and sing the national anthem. You should have been there. You may have been. It was a marvellous moment, and I remember watching from the side of the stage, and at the end of it saw one bloke leap up and jump to his feet, and the whole audience stood and gave little Harriet a standing ovation. An unforgettable moment, especially for her. Time moves on. Harriet went to primary school and then high school at Geelong Grammar, and then to ANU where she was studying arts law while she was working. I opened the telly last week and read with disbelief that Harriet Nixon, 21 tender years, had been killed by a falling tree branch while helping to set up a music festival on the New South Wales Central Coast. I have a picture of the little Harriet on my desk that was taken at our drought concert in 2003. She has a special place in our hearts and in everybody's hearts. And like everybody she came in contact with, we're bereft. You might remember late last year I spoke to a padre in Iraq before Christmas, and I asked him about the job of padreing, if you like, and he said, "Ian, in the gladdest and the saddest of times, words will prove to be inadequate. And this is such a time. I can't find any way to explain this tragedy. She was such a wonderful young woman. To her parents Fiona and Ralph and sister Alicia, our love. We have all lost a very special young lady." And I think to have somebody like Macca take the time to acknowledge Harriet's beautiful life was just incredibly special. In my office we have Team Nash, and we are very, very fortunate in my office to have Team Nash because I have the most wonderful people that work with me, and it's not your normal office. We're We're more like a family, and I know how much that they have all been just shattered by Harriet leaving us. And Adam, as he said, that she was just so pure. And I think Andy really encapsulated it when he said she was a ray of sunshine. And I just want to read from them, from Nathan, Les, Adam, James, Steph, Nick, Elizabeth, Brett, Wilhelmina, Fiona, Ryan, Fee, Andy, Catherine, Josie and Jock, what they've written for Harriet. For Harriet, a huge smile and a huge heart. This is how we will remember our beautiful and beloved colleague, Harriet. Harriet was a rare person. She had charisma in spades. She had a unique ability to make you feel like you were the only person in the room. She always had time to talk and would listen with vigour. She was highly intelligent, wise and accomplished beyond her years, but she was also very humble. She was organised, she was certainly organised, driven and capable, and she was incredibly caring and kind. She was elegant and gorgeous, yet she was also modest. Her boundless optimism and energy was contagious. Anyone who met her could not help but be in awe of this amazing person. She was an inspiration to everyone around her. There was nothing that you couldn't like or adore about Harriet. And despite her many commitments with work, study, university, sport and charity, she always made time to help others. She was a devoted daughter, sister, friend, girlfriend and colleague. Harriet, it was a pleasure working with you and knowing you. We will forever cherish our memories of you, our walks up Red Hill, dancing in campaign T-shirts in Lismore, tennis matches after work, your lists of the best cafes and restaurants in Canberra, lessons in constitutional law and microeconomics, planning amazing holidays and teaching you Turkish. We were so excited to see the woman you would grow into. We are so grateful for having had you in our lives and are incredibly proud to be able to say, I knew Harriet. You have left a lifelong, lasting impression on us and we are so much better for knowing you. We will never be able to hold you or hear you or speak to you, Harriet, but we will never forget you. And I know that other staff that aren't in the office at this point in time, but were at the time with Harriet, Matts, both the Matts, Stafford and Harris, Sarah, Alison, Jake, Sam and Emma, I know how much you all cared as well. The young Nats were amazing. Harriet took to the young Nats like a duck to water. I sponsored her for her first Young Nats conference and she was so appreciative. And I just want to read from Jess Price Purnell, who's the Young Nats State President in New South Wales. The first time Harriet walked into the 2015 Young Nats conference in Corowa, we were all blown away by her presence. Not only was she gorgeous on the outside, but on the inside too. While Harriet's time with the Young Nats was cut far too short, in the 2 years she was a part of the organisation, she made a huge impact. Whether it was debating fiercely on the conference floor or dancing the chicken dance after eating too many desserts at our conference dinner, everyone knew when Harriet was in a room. It was an absolute pleasure to have Harriet on the executive of the Young Nationals as the New South Wales Southern Regional Coordinator, and I know every Young Nat member will cherish the moments spent with her. Harriet's friends and family were the most important thing in the world to her. They all adored her and she adored them. And as has been said, there was so much to adore about Harriet. My nieces, Sam and George, Sam's here tonight, were incredibly close to Harriet. And I just want to read a few words from Sam. Harriet was the most talented and brilliant young woman. She was mature beyond her years and always showed responsibility. Harriet was respectful and kind to people. I often asked Harriet for advice as she was wise and so grounded. She would listen and then in her very proper voice, she did sound quite posh, give her thoughtful words of advice. You would not find a more honest and trusted person to talk with. Harriet embodied everything that was good about this world, and as we remember her smile, we will be grateful of the time we shared with her. Harriet filled our lives with happiness and valued above all her family. We all thought deep in our hearts that Harriet herself would one day get the opportunity to make many addresses in Parliament, as she was so talented and committed to making a difference. And Sam, about that, I think you are absolutely right. And here tonight, Ralph and Fee, Harriet's beautiful parents, Cindy, her beautiful boyfriend, and Cindy's mum, Z, and all the others here in the chamber tonight, and I want to acknowledge my colleagues, the member for Riverina, Michael McCormack, and the member for Killare, Andrew G., that this is just a moment for an extraordinary young Australian. She was so special. She had her incredible life before her, but what I think is amazing, that she packed into 21 years more than most people do in their lifetime. She was extraordinary. One minute she could be trekking up a mountain in trekking gear, and the next minute dressed up for a dinner looking like Audrey Hepburn. And I'm not kidding, she really did look like Audrey Hepburn. To finish, Mr. Acting Deputy President, Harriet had this amazing ability to instill in people incredible hope for the future of the nation. She embodied everything that was good, optimism, hope. She, every day, made the most of every day. Her charity work was incredible. Everything she did, she just did to the nth degree. So it may only have been a very, very short life, but it was a life that was so well lived, and she gave so much to those around her. Some of those things, as Macca said in his word, how do you make sense of something like this? Well, I think there's probably only one answer, and be you religious or not, I think the only answer is that God needed another angel, so he took Harriet. To Ralph and Fee and Alicia, from David and Will and Henry and I, my beautiful team Nash, our love go to you, our strength goes to you, and beautiful Harriet will always, always be in our hearts.
Thank you, Senator Nash.